who cares what it's called? I just don't feel good. Maybe this is the path to feeling better. Maybe this is what I have to process. This is what I have to do. If it's causing any response or reaction in our body, no matter where it's coming from, it's true, which means the only person responsible for mitigating it is us, right? And so what we tend to do, and I'm going to say this, we're men like to fix things. So if we're disconnected from what we're doing, we'll break things to then fix it again. To then be like, see, I did it. Look, I fixed it. Look, it was hard again. It was boom, right? That's kind of like how we're wired. And so you have to be aware of it. So the first thing is, number one, you have to have a practice of releasing, right? Like you have to leave the office in the office. You can't keep stuffing and stuffing and stuffing and then expect it not to break. You got to get it out, but you got to get it out with you and not get it out with the people around you, right? And so a writing practice, like one of my favorite things to do is, when I'm really, really stuck, is I record an audio note to myself. And I'm like, oh man, I'm just so, And then when I end it, I'll try to listen to it. I've never been able to make it through like 20 seconds without bothering myself. And I'm like, God, I wouldn't want anybody else to listen to this either. And then I'm literally like gone, like it's gone, it's out, it's processed, it's there, because I think about all the stuff I've carried home. Like I'll have a bad day, like today, like right now. I'm like, if I had to grade myself on this interview, I'd give myself a 5.2 out of 10. Right? I'm like, oh, I missed that. I had that. And I'm like, but at the same time, I give myself a 10 out of 10 because that was my authentic performance. But there's two sides of me. There's the Jekyll and the Hyde, right? Part of me wants to go home and my wife be like, hey, how was it? And I want attention. So I'm like, oh, it wasn't that great, babe. Like, tell me how awesome I am. Like, I can do it differently, because I'd be craving attention. The other side, I'm like, hey, it was awesome. Let's spend time as a family. That's I've done the work. I'm building something different. And it really just comes down to the practice. And so I think one of the biggest problems that I encountered that's so aligned to what you're saying is that I try to outthink the shitty thinking. And I leave it up there and expect there to be a solution. And the moment you get it from out of your head into existence, the charge is gone. Write it down, speak it out. My favorite thing to do is video, right? And so you've seen this. So I was emotional on the move and I couldn't get it out. That's the only reason I did the video. Because if I can't process it on myself, I'm like, I need accountability deeper. Let me go live. And I started like crying. And really, why did I do the video? I was petrified to leave. I was super resentful. I was literally living in scarcity of like, what am I going to do for the next 7 days? How am I going to get my kids across the road trip in a car that's not fun to drive with a horse trailer behind it in 4 cities in 4 days? And you know what I mean? And so I was like, that's not going to create something positive. So I was like, I got to get it out. So I did. I just got it out. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm afraid of. This is what's coming up for me. And then the moment I was out, it was like the best road trip ever. And so you got to get it out. You got to figure out a way to get it out and get it out and get it out and get it out. And you also have to create containers to where you can only succeed, right? It's called Parkinson's law. You will fill the container you create. If you allow yourself to be in the office till 7, you'll fill it. But if you also allow yourself to be in the office till 2, you'll get the same amount, if not more, done, because you filled that tighter container. And so you have to start creating these containers and then allowing yourself to be in one fully. And then when you leave it, leave it. Like if your workday is ending at 5, then you need to stop at 4:30 and get out everything that needs to stay in work. Like it needs to stay on your desk. Like, so for me, I have a notepad when I'm done for the day and I write down tangibly, like what's keeping my mental state, like checked out. Like, what am I worried about? Oh, I can't forget this. Oh, I'm not going to do this. And I just write it down. So I give it a home and then I can pick it up the next day. And so you're already doing it right now. You're talking about it. You're fully feeling it and you're not making it wrong. And the thing that I would just remind you of is that like your wife is your best tool, as in all of us, your business partners, your team. And so try to be in this place of curiosity of like, they're like, decision fatigue doesn't exist. You're like, yes, it does. And like, but why are you holding on to that so tight? Why are you labeling it so hard instead of you realizing like, who cares what it's called? I just don't feel good. Maybe this is the path to feeling better. Maybe this is what I have to process. This is what I have to do. So that's what I would highly, highly recommend. And when we think about this, you know, you said it, I just don't believe in this hustle culture. And I'm the same person as you. I will distract myself with work because I'm afraid to be with my family. I'm afraid to be present because if I'm present, I have to feel. And if I have to feel, there's parts of me that haven't healed yet. And then I get to feel those parts, and I get to have a 4-year-old as I reparent myself when I was abused at that age. And I get to have a wife who gives me feedback that like some of the things I did today weren't ideal. And then I get to hear those things and be like, God, that doesn't mean I'm a bad man or a bad husband or a bad father. It's information for me to play a better game. And so there's been plenty of times where I'm like, I'm working, or I'll pad a flight for 6 hours. So I just have a couple more minutes alone instead of coming home and be like, honey, I missed you. I really need 6 hours to decompress. And she'd be like, yeah, babe, I got you. Thank you for sharing with me. Right. So it's just this game of practice over and over and over. And the way that I look at it is I believe that anybody's in my life is there to be my teammate. And I've never had a teammate who's knowingly self-sabotaging us winning the game together. And so I have to practice being like, my 15-year-old daughter's my teammate. My 4-year-old son's my teammate. My wife is my teammate. She's not giving me that feedback because she wants to leave. She's giving me that feedback because she wants to stay.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, this is how we can play the game better. And I'm like, God, I got to remind myself to play the game. And if I can't hear it, I have to go create space for myself to hear it and process it, to come back and be like, I'm ready to play the game. I'm ready to play the game. And it's just practice over and over and over again.